we just got to try to work together to set a new date and then give people what they want. And then really, I don't think email, you just got to work with Hallie. I don't think email is the way to go. I think it's got to be. We just got to give her the confidence and the tools that you be, if you have time, or I understand you're busy, it's.
Like Brenda said, it's like, because we're not helping.
No, we're just completely sending a mixed message. And that's where then we have to have her and we can use me, but we have to push. Oh. Yeah. Oh, no. No, and I think, again, what Brenda said is, so you're on this edge of this cliff now, again, B and F.
Okay, good morning, everybody. It is Thursday, September 15th. My name is Myrna Molina. I will be chairing today's Judicial and Public Safety Committee meeting. We do not have quorum as of yet. So I'm going to ask for public comment, and then we'll go back to approval of minutes once quorum is established. So I know I have a few people signed up to speak for public comment today. We're going to start with Michael Deegan. You sure you wanted to sign up first? Do you want to go first? Do you want to just come up to the mic and just introduce yourself, and then we'll go from there?
Hi, I just signed in up here earlier. My name's Greg Leisure. I live in South Elgin. I'm a village board member in South Elgin.
Mr. Leisure, are you speaking on agenda or off agenda?
On agenda.
On agenda. Okay, so you have 5 minutes. Go ahead.
I won't take that long. But we have a situation in South Elgin. There's an area of unincorporated residential area, unincorporated, that is surrounded by.
Mike, please.
That's surrounded by residential and commercial areas in South Elgin proper. At least one of the residents in the unincorporated area has been regularly shooting their guns in their backyard. And the only thing that separates 140 condo units from the area where the guns are being fired is a fence. Some of the condos are within 50 yards of where the guns are being fired. So I am here in support of an amendment. I believe you're discussing it in new business today regarding the discharge of firearms in certain areas of unincorporated Kane County as a public safety issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Morning. My name is Mike Deegan. I'm a retired police chief, South Barrington, Illinois. I also live with Greg, and we've been putting up with these gunshots for almost a year now. I have a video if you'd like me to play the video, what it sounds like from my front porch. That's them shooting, and I'm probably about 500 yards away, and they do this constantly. So we would like to see, there is a state law in the books allows you to, the county itself, to go ahead and pass this amendment prohibiting anybody shooting a firearm within 350 yards of a dwelling. Now, I know there'll probably be a little bit of concern about hunters because out on the western edge of Kane County, there are some open areas where hunters can hunt. I researched it, and the Bible for the hunters in Illinois also states on there you can't discharge a firearm within 300 yards of a dwelling unless you have permission from the landowner to go ahead and shoot. So I strongly suggest, and it's only going to get worse too, because they're building a great big huge development just south of where these guys are shooting at. And it's all ours. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have one more speaker signed up to speak via Zoom. Let's see. Matt, are you on?
Yes,
Okay.
can you hear me okay?
Go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, similar situation. I have neighbors that moved in. They're less than 100 feet from our patio and from my children's play set. And they have the constant parties, throwing parties with live music that go into, late into the night, into the morning. The next day, the parties last all weekend. And then typically on Sunday afternoon, after, they're 3 days into a bender, they take out their AR style rifles and they start shooting at 55-gallon drums in their backyard. I've called the sheriff several times. The deputies have come out and acknowledged that they're not shooting safely, but there is apparently nothing that they can do about it. So I, again, am in favor of the amendment. And my backyard sounds like a war zone when they're doing this. And, I just think my number one goal in life is to provide a good, peaceful, safe environment for my family. And basically these neighbors have taken that away. It's always been a great area for kids. But it's not when, an errant shot could hit my kid's play set. I have videos as well. I shared them with Mark Van Kerkhoff and Commander Chris Peeler. I met with them and, they were, seemed very much in agreement that it's not a safe situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to all our speakers for coming out today and letting us know what's going on in your neighborhood. I'm going to make a motion to call roll, please.
Brown,
Brown here.
Gums, Leonard,
Leonard here.
Sanchez, Shepro, Davis,
Davis here.
Molina.
Molina present.
You have quorum.
Okay, and then I'll ask for a motion to approve minutes for June 16th. We are deferring August 11th meeting minutes to next month.
Davis moves.
Seconds.
Brown,
Yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Molina.
Molina, yes. Okay, next item on the agenda is our financial reports. They are on file. Our Merit Commission report is also on file. So we will move on to our KingCom.
Good morning. Our monthly reports are on file. We have a very, very, very busy week ahead. Actually, a couple of weeks. So we've talked about the Next Generation 911 project for a year or so, and we are in full preparations for that. As of 1 a.m. this morning, we've done a minor phone software upgrade to prepare ourselves for next week, testing the Next Gen 911 system on our system. And then we do plan to go live with that system the last week of September. In addition to that, we are helping support for public safety the Live Golf event this weekend. So our team has extra staffing in the center to support from call taking perspective, fire perspective. And then we do have management team members on site in Command 1 to help facilitate communications as well. And that's all I have today.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions for Ms. Guthrie? Okay, we will move on to our Sheriff and Adult Corrections. Sheriff Haynes, good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Our reports and financial reports are on file. I do want to do a brief introduction of our Chief of Staff, Amy Johnson. This is a new position for her. Our longtime Undersheriff, Pat Gangler, is going to be retiring in December, and she's under his tutelage right now and will be under sheriff at that time when he steps away into a well-deserved retirement. So please welcome Chief of Staff Amy Johnson to JPS. You're going to see her a lot more often. To echo the concerns of the citizens regarding the ordinance, I mean, the rest of the county is not immune to this issue. This was an ordinance that was established a long time ago, and the demographics and population of Kane County looked a lot different. And unfortunately, our deputies do go out and they try and mitigate it as best as they can, but by the parameters of the ordinance, they can't take much action. So in the interest of safety for our citizens and peace and serenity, again, I am in lockstep with their plea for better zoning in that regard. And I know Mark Van Kerkhoff in Zoning and Development is working on that from concerns from Aurora all the way up to Elgin. Like Director Guthrie said, we have the Live Golf outing going on right now. This has been a massive lift for the sheriff's office as well as CANCOM. The benefits are that we're going to be building in some revenue with that. It's 100% reimbursed. All of our time and staff efforts are 100% reimbursed by Live. And it will show some revenue to the county as well through the sheriff's office. We are going to be discussing, I think it's going to go to finance at this point. We were hoping to have it on this agenda for resolution, but we're looking at a new medical contract for the jail. But there were some financial issues involved and contractual issues involved. So we look forward to having that in the finance agenda. So just putting that on your radar, that is going to skip over this committee. And then we're ready for the two resolutions that I have. So I noticed staffing increase request for FY23 for the sheriff's office. We have no new staffing requests pursuant to the Safety Act because we are, again, like I've said, throughout time in a very solid position to respond to it as far as staffing goes. However, State's Attorney Mosser and I have taken very strong positions with our legislators and are planning action if they do not correct the bill as it is with some trailer bills. And that will just be simply in the interest of our community. So further to come on that. So we can go ahead and move to the resolutions.
Okay, go ahead and introduce the first resolution.
This will be for a renewal of our contract with Aramark for our food, laundry, and commissary. They've done a great job for us, and we're just extending that contract.
Okay, may I have a motion and a second to discuss and potentially approve this resolution?
Leonard, so moves.
Okay, Mr. Brown moves, Mr. Leonard seconds. Any comments or questions? Okay, pretty straightforward. Okay, may I please have roll call?
Brown,
Brown, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Molina.
Molina, yes. Okay, and this passes on to finance as well. Okay, Sheriff Hayden, introduce our second resolution.
This one is born from Director Joe Onzik, who had the idea of creating a special equipment and vehicle fund for the sheriff's office that we haven't had before. And when Joe Onzik makes a suggestion, everybody should listen. So what we're doing with this is we received from housing the Department of Corrections detainees for quite a period of time over COVID. We were able to negotiate a reimbursement to the county in the form of $715,000 and some change. So we're going to take that funding, that reimbursement, and place it into this new fund for our vehicles going forward.
Okay, may I have a motion and a second to discuss and potentially approve?
Davis moves.
Mr. Davis moves.
Leonard, second.
Mr. Leonard seconds. Okay, any comments or questions regarding the resolution? Okay, may I please have roll?
Brown,
Brown, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Molina.
Molina, yes. Okay, and this will pass on to our Finance Department Committee. Okay, anything else, Sheriff?
Nope, we just look forward to executive session.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next item on our agenda is our State's Attorney.
Good morning. My name is Christine Bear. I'm the first assistant. Jamie had to be in court this morning and could not be here. So she asked me to come. Obviously our monthly reports already been attached. So we're just asking, hopefully you've looked that over. And then I know that, didn't know if there was going to be another discussion about the staffing increases. I know we've had numerous discussions about all of our staffing increases that we've requested. There's been some discussions privately and outwards, but I didn't know if that was today or not.
Yeah, we put that on the agenda today, hoping that the big task we gave our Director Labrillo was going to be completed by today, but it's not. So we're going to just go ahead and defer discussions for a later date. It was a big ask for all of you, so thank you all for including more information for this. We're going to give her a few more days to compile everything, and then we'll be fair in providing a report for everybody. So it might not happen today, but it's going to happen soon. So thank you, everybody, for participating in that portion. So we can go ahead and move on to the resolution.
All right, thank you. Yes, we have one resolution for today. The Child Advocacy Center did receive a grant, and we're asking for the authorization of the acceptance of that grant from the Child Advocacy Centers of Illinois to our office, the King County State's Attorney's Office, Child Advocacy Center, and then authorizing the corresponding budget adjustment.
Okay, may I have a motion and a second to approve and potentially to discuss and approve?
Brown moves.
Mr. Brown moves.
Leonard seconds.
Mr. Leonard seconds. All right, any other comments or questions? Okay, may I please have roll?
Brown,
Brown, yes.
Leonard, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Molina.
Molina, yes. Okay, and this passes. Okay, we will move on to our public defender.
Good morning. Our reports are on file. It is business as usual at our office. We are still working on some hiring issues. I know Judge Hull will talk a lot about the Safety Act, but we are getting to the point in the office that we are going to be training the attorneys. So we are gearing up for that to get them ready. So they will be ready to go January 1st as well. Other than that, if you have any questions on the reports, I'd happy to answer those.
Okay, any questions for our public defender? Okay, thank you. Okay, so we will move on to judiciary and courts. Judge Hall, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Just a couple things, just to bring you up to speed. One, Safety Act. I'm not sure if you've heard of that, but so, I think that each day, all of us in the court systems continue to work on preparing the 16th Circuit for the implementation. As you can tell, over the last 3 or 4 weeks, there's been a ton of rhetoric in the news about it. And up to this point in time, we haven't seen it, but I think that'll continue through the election. At the end of the day, I go back to our job is preparation. Prepare. What will happen in Springfield will happen. And we're hopeful that there'll be amendments that will make this more palatable to all. But in the end, again, our job is to prepare the 16th Judicial Circuit for the implementation on January 1st. And that's what we're all doing each and every day. And so, again, just a shout out to all of you who have reached out, to all our justice partners. I wish that I could give you just a little bit of an insight to what's going on each and every day. There's emails, there's phone calls, there's conferences, trying to figure out what we can do to be ready. So I feel confident we will. Lots of hard work still ahead, but there's been a lot of hard work that's been done. So with that, a couple other things, and I'll be happy to answer questions if anybody has them about that. Our trial court administrator, Doug Naughton, has not changed his mind. He's still retiring. We have gone through a search firm and we are down to 2 finalists. Those finalists are coming in on September 26th and September 27th, and then we hope to make our selection. Andrea O'Brien, our deputy trial court administrator, is one of our finalists. And so, we're going to come back and we will have some news for you probably the next time we meet. So that's a very, very important position for us to fill. Bring you up to speed on the new courtroom. We had come before you and the county board was kind enough to authorize the use of funds in order to build a new courtroom that was required by the Safety Act. Again, our bond call courtroom is going to be dedicated to PFA Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. As a result, we needed some place to put our orders of protection and other matters. The multipurpose room projects, they started demolition and construction on Monday. And so that process, the goal is to have that ready to go on January 1st. Again, I want to thank you guys for allowing us to do that. But at the same time, it's a huge opportunity for us. Orders of protection are so important. The people that come in have had to share a courtroom and wait sometimes due to bond call. What this courtroom will allow us to do is to dedicate a judge in a courtroom to serving those people that come in, which I think is a fantastic opportunity and a great way to serve the community. So we're looking forward to that project continuing on. And then the last thing that I wanted to mention is between the last time we were here and today, we lost Judge Parkhurst, an associate judge, to cancer. I was saying yesterday to justice managers that I've been a part of Kane County since 1992. And I look at we talk about your work family, but we have a courthouse community over there. And Bill has been a part of that for a long time. When people pass away, there's always a lot of superlatives that are used. In Bill's case, they're all true. He truly was the best of the best. What I loved about him is he felt like it was an honor to come to serve the citizens of Kane County every day. And he was kind to anybody that he came into contact with, from employees to litigants to whoever's path he crossed. And so for all of us over at the courthouse, it's been tough. From Bill's perspective, we just, again, I think one of the judges said, you know, the best thing we can do to remember Bill is to try to treat people the way that Bill would want or would treat them himself. And I think that's a great legacy. But I just wanted to again share, you know, the thanks for all the well wishes. We've shared that with his family, but we will miss him every day. So with that, any questions?
Any questions for Chief Judge? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, we'll move on to court administration. Ms. Ost, good morning.
Good morning. So I just wanted to cover briefly, I did submit a lot of our information to Jamie Labrillo for the new staff. And I wanted to, during my budget presentation, I talked about I had applied to AOIC to get reimbursement for the 3 JJC staff. So I'm very happy to report I did get that reimbursement. And so the state of Illinois is already committed to giving us that money. So I've let Mr. Onzik know. So the increase that they gave us was $146,771. It's not quite enough to cover all 3 positions, but as you recall, the county has to pick up the benefit portion. And so that coupled with the 23,000 that I was able to reduce my contract, my outside contracts by, because we're doing it now in-house, I believe that is enough, or it's darn close. So, so of the total of 2, 4, 6, 7 positions that I requested, 3 now are funded. So I just want to make sure that we're distinguishing between those as we roll forward with the budget. Thank you. It was a lot of work. Yeah. I mean, bureaucracy is kind of hard and people don't realize that. Having said that, so today, Dr. Singh is here to talk about KCDC and to give an overview of the things that her department did last year. 2 of the positions I'm requesting are for her department for staff psychologists, and they'll in part be used for the Pretrial Safety Act. And then I want to give you foreshadowing that next month I'm bringing a different staff. My staff has been working on the statistics around bond call and the Pretrial Safety Act. And we hope to have a good flow chart and a good discussion about how we see the actual defendants shaking out. There's been a lot of information out there. A lot of it's misinformation about who qualifies for bond call, who's going to qualify for a detention hearing. He's really charted it out to kind of show visually what this looks like as we go through bond call, or what it has looked like the past few months if we were operating under the new Pretrial Act. And so that should be able to solidify it, kind of what we're looking at. Because there are things like the state's attorney will have to petition for another detention hearing. So instead of just one bond call, it's really 2. It's a 2-stage bond call. So he'll lay all that out for you, and that'll be next month. And at this point, I will turn it over to Dr. Singh to talk about the diagnostic center.
Thank you. I'm just going to wait for the PowerPoint to come up.
Excuse me, Chair.
Yes,
Ms.
Madam Chair,
Williams,
go ahead.
yes, hi, thank you. While we're waiting for the PowerPoint, could I ask Ms. Ost a question?
Absolutely.
So once again, well done on receiving the grant. How long is this grant going to be for? Is it annual or?
It's in perpetuity. So the state of Illinois, that's the unique thing with court services and probation, and even detention. The employees, the line staff are cost share with the state of Illinois. And so I have to petition them, as it were. I submit supplementals and gather a lot of data. And then they either approve and say they recognize the need for this staff, and then they pay for that salary. It's a reimbursement. So as long as Kane County employs those people, they will reimburse them.
Very good. Okay, wonderful. That's good news. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Dr. Singh, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. I believe Blair said just one more second. There we go. But good morning. I'm happy to speak to you today about our annual report from last year, 2021. I know it's a little later in the year, but I do have some updated numbers and just updated services we're doing. So as I go through last year's report, I will give you those updates when appropriate. So we are just a general overview. We are located with Ms. Barrero here in the Kane County Circuit Clerk's building. If you have not visited us You are always welcome. I think most of you I have seen through the years come through and just learn a little bit more about what we do. But if you don't have the opportunity, this presentation is a good substitute to tell you about everything we're doing. We exist by statute. We are the designated psychology department for the 16th Judicial Circuit. So everything we do is by court order. So the court is our client. We are not a walk-in facility. We are not a community mental health center. Everything we do is for the Kane County court system. And that being said, everyone on my staff are clinical forensic psychologists. They're all doctors because the level of the work we do, you need a doctorate to do that. So I have 6 full-time staff psychologists. Then I also have 1 intern. Once in a while, I do have a postdoc. I don't have that position filled this year. And then I have my support staff. So we're not a huge department, as you can see, but what I like to do is I call us small but mighty, because we do pack a wallop in terms of the services we provide. So we are most known for providing psychological evaluations for the court system. And that is absolutely our primary role because that's where the need is. But we are pretty comprehensive. So what other people may not realize is we also do court-ordered therapy. We do crisis and suicide assessments. So for example, if someone has a bad court date and they're sitting at Aurora Probation Office and they're making suicidal statements, those probation officers will call us. We will go down there face to face, see if a hospitalization is warranted or provide other services. So we do crisis work for anywhere basically in the county. We provide the court with expert testimony as well. We do run the Kids First Divorce Program, which I will go into in a few more upcoming slides. And we also do a lot of trainings. We're involved in specialty courts. And I also have the primary role for juvenile placements when juveniles are removed from home. So we do a lot. Other than the psych evals. But like I said, the psych evals are the primary kind of role we have for the court system. Now, last year, we did 307 reports. And at the submission of this presentation, that number increased to 320. But I looked at my numbers yesterday. As of yesterday, we actually have 425 open cases, and we're at about 340 psych evals with 3 more months in the year. So we are well on track to exceed all those numbers. And we have been busier this year. I think part of that is just the need is out there. And then even with COVID and the pandemic, just kind of catching up with all those numbers. Most of the time, 80% of the people we evaluate are adults and about 20% are juveniles. And that's just because there's less juveniles, in the system. But I think the need is certainly with the adults. So it's primarily adults. We did, and again, these numbers as of yesterday, we're at 166 already for this year for full psychological evaluations. Now, these are our general kind of evaluations with treatment recommendations. They could be pre-trial, they could be post-conviction. And when you see all those charges, it could be any of those charges. So a high number of domestic battery cases, a lot of violence risk assessments, including risk for violating orders of protection, anything like that. Fitness to parent sometimes comes up in abuse and neglect court. School shooting or threat assessments come through and would be a general psych. So you see that this is a very, very broad category. And along with that, because of kind of the broad charges we deal with, we have a lot of psychological tests. I actually have over 100 different psychological tests I could give. And I have every single forensic tests that exists in the US and Canada that we can use. And that being said, other jurisdictions do kind of have some, component of a diagnostic center. I know that Kane County Diagnostic Center is one of the most comprehensive ones in the US in terms of we are virtually equipped to deal with any question that a judge or attorney or court has. And so we are very proud of that. But a lot of training too, and finding the right forensic psychologist to fill those positions become very important. Year to date, right now, we're close to 60 sex offender evaluations for the year. This is by far our most time-consuming and comprehensive evaluations we do, and it is highly specialized. It actually requires a separate sex offender license to perform these evaluations. So my staff not only are licensed in clinical psychology. In order to perform this type of test, you also have an Illinois sex offender evaluator license. I only have 2 people, excluding myself, that have this license, although the good news is next month there is a nation training where I can send people and one of them will automatically apply. The training on this topic is very hard to find. I mean, not everyone wants to do this work and it's just, again, so specialized. But with these evaluations, not only are we doing a full psychological evaluations, we're doing actuarial measures, 3 of them. We're doing a computerized test of sexual interest. There's different components in terms of providing the court with a risk assessment. So a judge can help inform a judge, give an opinion to make a determination whether this is probationable, whether they should be going to prison. So it's very comprehensive. We also do purely forensic evaluations. Right now, we're at 84 for the year, so almost 20 more than last year's total. The primary and the most common one is fitness to stand trial. And as of yesterday, we've done 80 just of those, 7 sanities. So sanity would be, was someone insane at the time of offense? They usually come up in murder trials. We also do Miranda warning evaluations. Did someone understand their rights at the time of arrest? Transfer from juvenile court to adult court, fitness to proceed pro se. There's a lot of different questions that a judge may ask us to do to help inform them again. So very common are the forensic ones. Last year, we've also done almost 50 pre-employment screening for the sheriff commissions. This year, however, because of, as you see, we've exceeded our numbers, we've changed a few things and we are not doing those. We basically do the pre-employment for the dispatch and not for the sheriff at this point in time, just because we had to pick and choose, supply and demand issues. So we have stopped doing those for this year. And then aside from all the evaluations, we have done about 1,300 hours of consultations. That could be our involvement in specialty courts. My staff is involved in drug court and mental health court. We do a lot of professional consultations. Many hours of expert testimony go into that, and a lot of supervision of our interns and postdocs and externs. So we are busy other than just, direct client hours. Last year, we did have, and we've always had kind of MOUs with Kendall, DeKalb, Ogle County, and Stevenson for their juveniles. Last year, we did cases for them. just 9 cases, but this year we made the decision to right now focus on Kane County alone. And again, because our numbers are so high and with my staff thus far not increasing, I really had to serve Kane County. So decisions were made to right now not provide services to those counties. We've also provided 716 hours of treatment intervention. A lot of those would include some crisis calls, but mostly their individual therapy. We do some family therapy. We don't have an active running group right now, again, because to focus on the psych evals. In the past, we have done some trauma groups and we'll see how things go in the future years. But right now, mostly this is trauma-informed care for anyone in court services, on probation, drug court. We have a lot of people coming from drug court to do therapy with us at the same time they're going through drug court because of the trauma histories. And this is something new that we're very proud to display, that I have a trauma-informed treatment room that looks very different. It's not sterile. It looks very different than the other rooms. Part of that is, when people disclose trauma and all the anxiety and, that comes with it, they really need to be in a very welcoming, safe environment. And that being said, I think now is a good time to let you know that myself and 2 other psychologists next year from January to April are going to be trained in a very specialized trauma treatment, EMDR, which is basically almost like rewiring your brain to cope with trauma and anxiety. It's highly specialized, and we will be the only diagnostic center in the nation that could provide this. It is very much evidence-based to reduce criminal offending and to work on people's trauma. So everything, it has been normed on this population with defendants, and the results are amazing, that people do not come back to the system. Their substance abuse decreases, their violence increases, decreases. So it's going to be a long haul, but I'm very proud of that. I'm very excited to incorporate that into the services we provide. And we are also the designated department to provide the divorce parenting education program for Kane County. By statute, anyone divorcing with minor children has to undergo 4 hours of education about the impact of divorce on children. To make everything easy for our defendants, 2 hours of the mandatory 4-hour program is done online, so they could do it at leisure at home. Once they are done with that, they take the live class, which is run by 2 of my psychologists, and it's a 2-hour class. I'm also proud to say that it is fully functional in Spanish. I have a Spanish-speaking clinical psychologist, and the PowerPoint and all the written materials are also in Spanish. So like 1 session every 2 months roughly is for Spanish speaking classes, and we do fill those up. So it is, fees are associated with this. And last year we collected about 108,000 fees collected by the circuit clerk for this program. We also do a lot of countywide trainings for the sheriffs, the state's attorney's office, the public defender's office, probation once in a while. And these were just some of the topics we trained on. And we also definitely have CEUs. So we are always aware of, training ourselves and having all the updated psychological testing material. I am very vigilant about that we have the newest editions of everything just to be top notch in our services. We also run a nationwide internship program in forensic clinical psychology. We are accredited by APIC, which is kind of a local, nationwide and local internship accreditation agency. So we're accredited actually to receive interns from Canada or anywhere in the US. But we are, and I'm very excited to tell you this, pending APA, American Psychological Association accreditation. We passed the first big and actually the most comprehensive chunk of, which is a self-study. It was probably 110 pages of application where we had to submit. We passed that and we are waiting for a site visit from Washington, DC. It does require a site visit. And that should happen hopefully in the next few months, although I'm told they're a little behind now due to COVID and everything like that. But once we get that site visit and get approval, we will now be APA accredited as well. And that will pull for, great interns and postdocs for us. And just a little bit about the value of our interns. Last year, our interns with a stipend of $27,000 each actually did about close to $200,000 worth of clinical work if you break it down between outsourcing those services in the private sector with therapy and psychological evaluations. And, it's easy to talk about, well, what would a psych eval cost in the private sector, right? But try to find someone who knows how to fitness to stand trial. It's not so easy because again, we're not looking for like ADHD assessments. We're looking for, highly specialized evaluations that most people, do not know how to perform. So it's a great service, just to be involved and part of the county, how we're embedded with the county. So, and this is just private practice outsourcing. If you run the numbers for evaluations, that would be, well over $1 million. And that is not at all including expert testimony. If the attorneys could tell you how much those are charged, usually $250 an hour or something. I'm not even including consultation hours or trainings or anything like that. So, and these are just some numbers in terms of outsourcing. So the goals for next year would be to definitely get the APA accreditation, but my biggest goal is to fill a position or two, because as you see, the numbers are only growing and growing. And in order to accommodate those numbers, I've also had to, not cut, but reprioritize caseloads and then kind of globally look at everything we're involved with and reprioritize those categories. So I'm excited to try and search and hire another forensic clinical psychologist, but I will take any questions you may have now.
Thank you, Dr. Singh. Any questions or comments? Mr. Brown?
Thank you, Brown speaking. Congratulations to you and your team on everything you do. It sounds absolutely amazing. And I think I'm very glad that you gave us this update today because it opened my eyes to what the court systems does do is probably not the right word. What you do for the residents of Kane County. So congratulations and thank you. I do have one question though. I think I know the answer to this, but I wanted to ask, you only work with patients that are going through the court system, correct?
Correct.
So someone, when a fire department gets called or an ambulance gets called to an issue and they take that patient in for a psych eval, that's not you, that's someone else. You don't work with those people. You only work with people that are going through the court system.
Yes, that is correct. If an ambulance gets called in those situations, they're probably going to the ER or hospital, and that's
Right.
where they would get their evaluations. Now, that being said, our people out in the community, we've actually done an intervention, I believe it was 2 years ago, where our client called Aurora PD from their cell phone saying, I'm finding a bridge to jump off of. And because that was our client, and mind you, he's never, he was supposed to show up for his very first appointment. So we didn't know what he looked like or anything, but I contacted the sheriff's department. I contacted Aurora PD. Three of us, one was trying to keep him on the phone to ping his cell tower because he wouldn't tell us where he was. Then I had someone talking to Aurora. I was doing things and we actually did intervene. Police got there right in time, actually with arms on his shoulders, drew him off the bridge. And then I said, I need to commit him because he didn't want to be hospitalized because he really did want to die that day. I went to Mercy Hospital, talked to the emergency room physician, and I involuntarily committed him. So, you know, we do have situations like that. And that was not our first, you know, suicidal threat with a bridge. We've done several of those over the years. And you luckily don't hear about it because, you know, we saved their life. But we would, you know, that would be the route in terms of how we would work with hospitals. It would be through the involuntary commissions and involuntary commitments and communicating with those physicians too.
Well, thank you to you and your team.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair
Any oth-
Moline, just
Yes, go
a
ahead.
couple things I wanted to add, because the diagnostic center falls under the chief judge's office. And so a couple different things. One is when we talk about those extra positions, when we have people that are arrested and then incarcerated at the jail, many times, whether it's the sex offender evaluation or a fitness evaluation, people have to wait to be seen by our diagnostic center, which increases the amount of time that they're in the sheriff's custody. And prohibit really the cases in a standstill. The public defender can't do anything, state's attorney can't do anything. So it's something that we've been focused on and that Dr. Singh has been focused on, trying to prioritize and get those people that are in custody prioritized. But I will say that there are times when we have individuals waiting 30, 60, 90 days to get a staff psychologist assigned to them. And that time they're sitting at the jail and there's nothing that we can do. So when we looked and we worked together trying to prioritize and look for needs, just like anything else, by approving or giving us more positions, there's a money savings that will be involved in that because we'll be able to move people and move those cases out of the jail quicker. The other thing that Dr. Singh mentioned that I just wanted to mention is one of the things that Dr. Singh and that Lisa worked on is we had to prioritize this year. And so we've wanted to work with other governmental agencies, DeKalb, Kendall, to offer our diagnostic center to provide services for them. But unfortunately, when we looked at the workload, we were no longer able to do that. So we had to reach out and talk to our counterparts in those other counties and indicate that it's not that we don't want to help, but our responsibility is to Kane County and to the taxpayers of Kane County, and that's where we needed to focus our attention. So, you know, those are tough decisions because we all work cooperatively with each other. But now DeKalb, we did agree in the spirit of cooperation for Dr. Singh and her staff to do the cases that had come in. I think we're down to 4 now, and we're not going to be receiving any additional ones. So it's hard decisions to make. But again, I think that's a great sign of leadership by Lisa, by Dr. Singh, to identify what the priorities are and to focus on those priorities.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Leonard?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to thank Dr. Singh for her presentation. Very informative and pretty impressive the amount of work they do. The point that I'd like to piggyback on with Chief Judge Hull is the fact that I think an additional person will probably be more than paid for in the savings and the wait time. And if we take a look at that, if people are in there sometimes 30, 60, 90 days, at what, maybe $60 to $80 a day for incarceration? Yes. You know, we're looking at enough savings there to more than handle the additional position. So I thank you for that input and Dr. Singh for your presentation.
Thank you. Madam Chair?
Oh, thank you very much. I have a listing of the positions that were asked as I'm going through and why we have Dr. Singh here. So for the Safety Act positions, you are looking at 2 additional staff psychologists?
Yes.
Okay. And then for non-Safety Act, you're looking at 2 mental health clinicians. Is that with your,
Well, let me just clarify I don't believe that the staff, that the positions that we're asking for, staff psychologists, are related to, the need was there before the Safety Act. It only increases because of the Safety Act. But to make sure that we're transparent, those needs have always existed. And so, when we're looking at Safety Act requests, understand that those needs existed before that.
oh,
And just to
totally
clarify-
empathetic here.
Just to clarify, so those 2 mental health clinicians are for the Juvenile Justice Center. Those are the ones that I've gotten the state of Illinois to pay for. That is for clinical services for crisis stabilization in the juvenile detention facility. So they are not connected to the diagnostic center at all. These are for people who are only working with the juvenile delinquents who are being held in juvenile detention.
Wonderful.
So within that facility, and those are the ones that the state of Illinois is paid for. So I would prefer that and that's why, they're not really Safety Act. So I want to make sure that those are handled separately.
Okay, and it says non-safety act
Yeah.
positions, but I'm just questioning, just trying
I
to
mean,
figure out.
they cooperate for
Mhm.
sure.
Mhm.
Dr. Singh will provide, clinical oversight when available in like the EMDR training. They're doing all that jointly, but really the 2 mental health clinicians are for the juveniles in detention.
Fantastic. So the only thing we have to include in the budget then is their FICA and health insurance.
Right.
Thank you. Good.
Cool. Thank you. Anything else?
Okay, any other questions for Dr. Singh? Thank you so much for your presentation. I mean, it just amplifies the fact that your department does all the things that nobody wants to see or do. And, the 6 people who work with you, I mean, kudos to them for taking that on because it's a lot of tough things every day. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we will move on to our circuit clerk. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Excuse me. Our reports are on file, so if anybody has any questions with that, I would like to just make note of a couple things going on at the circuit clerk's office. We've got our phone system installed finally, and it seems to be going very smoothly. So they've been training on it all week. I know we had a cutover because when they implemented the new phone system, and they had to do it at the same time as they're disconnecting the old system. So it was a little bit of pressure on the staff, but they came through smoothly. Everything went great. The other thing was I did talk to a couple senators yesterday regarding the Safety Act and the costs that will affect us here at the county. And I was told that there are several grants, just like the chief judge and I were told when we attended a conference on Monday and Tuesday. I am looking at these grants to see if anything could apply to the circuit clerk's office, so I will be researching that. They did say that there were grants for other offices. I have no idea. I haven't gone through the list. So I just would encourage all our partners here to take a look at that and see if we can apply for any of those grants or if it's not too late. They did say that, now I'm not advocating against or for the Safety Act. I want to get that straight. I'm just advocating for us to be funded going forward for our position, for what we need here at the county. And I was told that there are several grants related to that Safety Act. So if we could work as a team, if anybody sees anything regarding for the circuit clerk's office, I would love to have that forward to me, and I will do the same for all of you. The other is I am so proud that the clearance rates have been released, the annual report for circuits throughout the state of Illinois. And last year, for the 2020 report, we were dead last at 41.1% clearance rate on cases throughout Kane County. And that was a little slap in the face, and I was very upset about it. But then the report came out yesterday for 2020. And I would like you all to know that we are 99.5%. So we are no longer last.
Can I make sure, can I interrupt for a
I
second?
have it pulled up just in case.
No, but I I want to make sure the record's clear and the public is clear that the 41.4% was not an accurate number.
Correct.
That was that. So I just want to make sure my heart's kind of beating just
Right, well,
because
true,
that,
yes.
that number
I
was
didn't
not,
finish,
that
correct.
number was not an accurate number. That was a number because of our, because of Tyler and the way
Yep,
that things
our
were
statistics.
our things were inputted. Our number was in the high 90s.
Yes,
What we're proud of, or what I'm proud of, is that you've worked hard with your staff to correct the information so that the AOIC now accurately reflects. I can just see the newspaper stories saying
oh, yeah, true.
clearance rate
True.
goes
If
from
Julie's here, please,
41%.
please don't put that in.
That's not what it
or
was.
Mr. Fuller.
It
yes.
just was
Mhm.
that the circuit clerk's office worked extremely hard to identify what the issues were, get that data correct, not correctly inputted, but make sure it was properly reported.
Correct,
So,
but which we are still working on.
yeah, well, no, we're still working on it,
Still
but I
working
just, like
on
I
it.
said, my heart's starting to beat a little bit less.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't, all I keep seeing is the 44 and then I say that I
Yeah.
just had to brag, okay? But yes, the problem that he is talking about is the statistics have never been correct with Tyler, with ITD and Tyler. We're having this integration issue. And it all goes back to when they first turned us on and they didn't have it correct. Tyler did not have it set up correct. And so the information was never reported correct. So the staff actually went through physically by hand with a lot of items to make sure that we were getting closer to what our statistics should show. And we believe by the end of the year, we should be there. So it'll be way over 100%, I can guarantee, which is something that staff is very proud of, but we have a lot of work to go. We are still struggling with Tyler to get the statistics correct, to get time standards correct. I did speak to several individuals on Monday and Tuesday, and I'm pushing for us to get our money's worth, as Jamie would have said, for Tyler. We have put in 15 million into Tyler so far. So I believe there's no turning back. We just need to make it work correctly. And we are on schedule now for upgrades going forward, which was needed for the past 6 years. So we're working on getting that upgraded. We are in 2018 right now, but once you upgrade a system, it's just like your telephone. Once you upgrade a system, a lot of the issues you had previously hopefully get fixed. So I learned a lot at that conference, and it was a total eye opener in IT that a lot of us, I'm not IT illiterate. So I struggle with some of the information and trying to report it back to all of you. But I think in the last year and a half, I've taken a crash course in it, and I think I'm getting along pretty good with it now. But I really believe that we'll need the staff. This kind of ties into the staff also. In order to get all these reports done that the AOIC is going to request of us going forward. We did also find out that there will be a lot other reports requested due to the Safety Act and numbers that the state is looking at to justify and logistics as far as our demographics and so forth throughout the county. So we will need the staff to help compile that information. It's a lot of work and it requires a lot of knowledge. And unfortunately, the circuit clerk's office doesn't really pay a salary that would entice someone with a lot of web experience. So that's all I have for there. Did everybody get that statistics straightened out in their minds so I don't get phone calls later on? Thank you.
Congratulations. Do you have a resolution you'd like to introduce?
Yes,
today?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so last year we rolled over this amount for training that we had in the budget for 2021. And due to
the budget crisis and what we are trying to fill our staff with at the county, at the circuit's office. We want to take that 28,000 and move it into our salaries. So we want to take it out of training because there's no way we're going to use 28,000 in training in the next 2 months, and put it into our salaries.
Okay, may I have a motion and a second to discuss and potentially approve this resolution?
Leonard so moves.
Mr. Leonard moves, Mr.
Davis
Davis seconds. Okay, any other questions? Okay, so this is basically training fund that you have that you weren't able to use, and now you
Correct.
want to use it to compensate your employees. that you-
Not compensate. I want to put it into our salary, not it's to keep us where we're at, so we don't go over budget.
Okay, so current employees, not increasing employees for this year.
Correct.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, may I please have roll call?
Brown,
Brown, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Shepro, Davis,
Davis, yes.
Molina.
Molina, yes. Okay, so this passes on to Finance and Budget Committee. Okay, any questions or comments for our circuit clerk? Okay, thank you. We will move on to our coroner. Coroner Russell, good morning.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Great. I've got the report. I sent the report via email, so everybody should have it. But beyond that, unfortunately, death is consistent. So I have nothing else.
Okay, any comments or questions regarding our coroner's report?
Just Brown here with
Yes,
one,
go
one
ahead.
comment. I'm looking at the report right now, Mr. Russell, and I just noticed, and just for public information, if anyone's listening, once again, suicides are up year to year, month to month. Last year in August, we had 4 suicides go through your office, and this year we have 7. So just sad information.
Yes, it is concerning. I am reaching out and been working with survivors of suicide over in Batavia. But yeah, it's definitely concerning. And I said probably a year ago that I was concerned that maybe the results of the pandemic was going to happen to us in arrears, and it appears to be a possibility. That's what's happening.
Is there an age group trend to it?
It's pretty much spread out. There are some, both younger people and most of them are under the age of 60, but yeah.
Madam Chair, did you have a question?
Yes, I do. This is more of a financial question when I've got the coroner. Rob, I'm just going over the positions in preparation for tomorrow's meeting, so I'm grabbing everybody while I've got you. You have a request for a non-safety act position for a deputy coroner. Is that correct?
Yes. Last year we had requested 2. We put down to 1 to help, with the budgeting and whatnot. However, that need still exists. I'm trying, my goal is to reduce the amount of overtime that we're having, and also eliminate some of my paradeputy positions, because if we have enough hands, I don't need to call anybody in. So just looking at that, that's the goal. If we get another full-time deputy, we won't be able to eliminate, but we can definitely reduce the overtime, and also the paradeputy position that I have, which is an on-call position. We'd be able to not eliminate again, but virtually reduce that to very little. So that's the thought process behind that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mr. Leonard?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Russell, could you explain to me, just so I have a better understanding, you said you couldn't eliminate, but you could reduce those 2 expenses. Would that justify the cost of a new person, or what percentage of the cost of a new person would that justify?
It greatly reduces it to the point, and again, I can't give you an exact number, but I can say that it would reduce the expense as a whole. And again, a lot of that is dependent upon the volume, but I guess history has shown me that very rare that the amount of deaths we have go down. So, but it can happen. And if that did happen, it would be a good thing, but we wouldn't get the amount of savings that we would. But yeah, so that's the best way I can explain that, is that basically, you know, if you look at our overtime budget, it's pretty high. So, but I mean, because people die all hours of the day and night. So we try to cover that with regular hours, but in many situations, especially in situations where we have, you know, 2-3 deaths at the same time where we have to go out, that's where we get hit. But having the extra person, you know, on staff will help diminish. And again, just running preliminary numbers, not exact numbers, because it's very difficult for us to do. At least by 1/2 to 3/4 of our overtime budget should go down.
Okay, thank you, Coroner Russell.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Brown, go ahead.
what is the overtime budget, Rob? The dollar.
I don't
amount
have
of
it in
the
front of me. I don't have it in front of me right now. But it's 100,000 plus when you include the paradeputies. Again, the paradeputies is an on-call position that because we need to have 2 sets of hands. Since we remove our own bodies, we got to have another set of hands on the other side of the cot. So if we're short people, first thing I do is I try to see if there's anybody on staff that can assist. And if that's not the case, then I try a paradeputy, which is only $18 an hour. And as a last resort, I have to call in overtime. But even before I call overtime, myself or my chief, you know, if we're available, we'll do it. So we're down one position, and we'd be able to cover, you know, vacations and sick and all that kind of stuff much, I think, using regular time hours as opposed to overtime hours.
Okay, and I think we're going to have more discussion regarding the budget portion at COW at 3 o'clock, but Madam Chair, go ahead.
Oh, just very quickly, and thank you, Mr. Brown, for asking that question with the overtime. I'm sure we can find it in the reports. But the position would be fully paid for, to ask Mr. Leonard, almost fully paid for if the overtime is truly reduced by 50%. The way the position is listed, so it should be net neutral.
Okay, any other questions for our coroner? Okay, thank you, Coroner Russell. Okay, we're going to move on to the agenda. We have a new item to discuss. Ms. Wonicky and Mr. Kenyon brought this to our attention through our County Development Director, Mr. Van Kerkhoff. So I think I have Mark on the line. Let me know if you're okay to speak, Mark. Otherwise, I can go ahead and introduce your memo. Mark is homesick and he's joining us because of the commitment he has to the county as well.
Thank you. I don't have much of a voice, so I'll let you go ahead and introduce the memo. Thank you.
Okay, so basically, we've had some public comment today discussing potential change to our ordinance for nuisance. We've had multiple people in our community complain about guns being discharged near their home. So this is doing 2 possible approaches for unincorporated areas of King County. Again, incorporated areas of King County, they have their own areas that they take care of. So this would be strictly for the unincorporated areas. So there's 2 possible definitions that Mr. Van Kerkhoff had introduced. One was adding definitions as permitted by the state statutes to discharge firearms to the county code, possibly under the noise section. The other one was also under the noise section regarding amplified noise and live music. So basically, our committee is just being charged with kind of providing direction whether or not when we agree that we should be including something like this in our ordinance and in which one of these two areas we'd like to include the gun discharge, firearms discharge in them. So, Mr. Van Kerkhoff, did I kind of introduce that correctly?
Yes, you did. And just to note that we do have provisions in the liquor ordinance and in special event permits for amplified noise and live music. Most of the complaints tend to be from residential private parties that have less than 100 people that the sheriff gets called out to, and there's really not anything to address that other than them seeking cooperation from the neighbor. So that would be another category to look at as defining as a nuisance, having something that would require a residents to turn down or not have live music or amplified noise after a certain hour of the day or a certain threshold.
Madam Chair, go ahead.
My, Mr. Van Kerkhoff, I was just bemused and stunned that firearms are allowed to be shot near a residential area at certain times of the day. I'm just stuns me. To me, a random shot could travel accidentally, something could happen and a bullet could go stray. As we heard continually what happens in Chicago area. It was referenced that there are children playing in playgrounds in people's backyards. Understand the need and the requirement of the Second Amendment. I'm not arguing with that at all. But to shoot just for target practice when there are ranges designed for that with outside of a residential area just seems to me potential for danger.
And we have to remember a lot of this was put together before we had this development in the unincorporated areas of King County. So when we originally put together these ordinances, this was all farmland. So this is, unfortunately, a way of revising this is by, hearing from our constituents, but that's the reason why we're here today. So I guess it's up to the committee. Did you want to add definitions to both of these? And then the other question would be about enforcement. How would this be? I guess that's my main question because we have a bunch of ordinances that we have and, people complain about their grass, they complain about other things, but how is it actually enforced? We don't have the personnel right now to go out and enforce it. But from the sheriff's perspective, what type of enforcement would we be allowed to do? And is it?
So our deputies will be able to react to whatever parameters you tie into the new ordinance or the new definitions. So of course, we will pay less priority to somebody having tall grass as we would to somebody shooting in the proximity of a house. And just to put it on everybody's radar, Aurora University is also very concerned as there's a new property where shooting has been going on and it abuts to the football stadium. And so they're very concerned about events there and a stadium packed full of people and all of a sudden gunshots ring out at the property next door. So to me, this is very timely. It's badly needed throughout Kane County, and the sheriff's office will be more than happy to respond to those calls and finally have some teeth to be able to issue ordinance citations. And so what I would suggest first, though, once the board decides how they want to proceed, is we would definitely have to do a media campaign so the public is well aware, and probably post notice at specific properties where we've had issues, and then move forward from there with executing enforcement. Of course, if we can mitigate with folks and have them move to the other side of their big, 9-acre lot, which is where a lot of this is occurring, we'll encourage that. But at least this would give us some teeth to protect those neighbors that are close by in those new subdivisions.
And then what power does the county have over the citations? Because I know most of these nuisances are a very low kind of fee. I don't even know how much, Mr. Van Kerkhoff, what the charge is like as a fee, like you didn't do this, so we're charging you with this much. This seems more than that. This seems to be more of a public safety issue than just a nuisance. So what type of citations would the county have if, say, they don't listen to the sheriff's
It's an actual ordinance citation that goes to traffic court, just like as if you received a traffic ticket. It's just written on a different piece of paper. With the ordinance citations, the judges have a little more leeway in what fine they can assess. Typically, it's anywhere from $100 to $1,000, depending on the offense.
Okay. Okay, any other, I guess.
Question,
Mr.
Shepro.
Good morning, Mr. Shepro. Go ahead.
Good morning. Yes, by the way, could I be recorded as voting yes on that last vote? My mute button was stuck. Unusual for me. Question for Mark or maybe the sheriff. I recall that there were, oh gosh, maybe 10 or 12 years ago, there were issues regarding the discharge of firearms and hunting in the unincorporated areas. And I seem to recall then that there was a state statute that prohibited, in many cases, our attempts to ban firearms discharge. As I recall, there were issues regarding duck hunting in the Fox River. Part of what on the side that was unincorporated in the city of St. Charles was on the other side. And I'm wondering if the state's attorney has looked at this at all and what state law restrictions might limit our ability to regulate it. I'm thinking that the alternative suggestion of amending the noise portion of the nuisance ordinance might be have been looked at as a alternative to the other type of prohibition because of that. And I see possibly I'm about to get an answer.
Yes, go ahead.
Good morning, Assistant State's Attorney Aaron Brady. Our office is here and working with the Development Department and the Sheriff's Office to assist in whatever the board wishes to have in this type of an ordinance. But to answer Mr. Shepro's question, there is within the Illinois Counties Code a statute that provides counties with authority to regulate in the interest of public safety, firearm discharge within residential areas. Municipalities may be slightly different, but the counties do have that specific authority.
Good follow-up, please.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Shepro.
I seem to recall that was the issue before was the definition of a residential area. And I think at least again, I haven't looked at this statute in many years, is that residential area was defined by the distance between residential buildings, so that some areas where there were residences did not necessarily qualify as areas for purposes of the regulation. Am I remembering anything about that correctly?
This is Aaron Brady. Within that portion of the county's code, I don't believe that's defined. I do know there are other jurisdictions, other counties that do have that definition in place, and that's certainly something, if that's what the board wants to do, we would look at and research to make sure that those things are well articulated and defined.
And I guess my last question is the direction this morning is just to affirm that this committee would like to proceed with what is being proposed and researched through the Development Department?
That is correct, Mr. Shepro. So right now what we're requesting is just direction, whether or not we're looking to amend both of these definitions to both of these regulations or whether or not, or what it is. So I think I'd like to just request a consensus to research both and then give Mr. Van Kerkhoff, the leadership that he needs so that he can continue on with this.
I was about to say, I think that should be both. That would be research. So I would concur in your formulation.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Shepard. Madam Chair?
Thank you. And I agree with what you have just stated to research this. But in the meanwhile, we do have an issue regarding the issue in South Elgin. I have received 3 separate phone calls regarding the shooting. And now we've gotten two representatives who live in the same area. There are a series of townhouses right adjacent to this empty property, this unincorporated area. They are townhouses. Children play in the backyards right there. They have a playground area, which is directly next to the unincorporated open land where the guns are being shot. We also, it's football season, as we all aware of. Can you imagine the stress and anxiety that could potentially happen if the owners of the unincorporated land that's adjacent to the Aurora University football stadium decide to go out and do some target practicing in the middle of a football game? Injuries could happen as panic may ensue. So why I think, yes, to be prudent, we have to go forward with carefully correcting our ordinances, putting new ordinance in. There has to be some kind of immediate education or request from these, particularly two properties, to amend perhaps where they shoot guns and then perhaps at what time. Because the ones I know for a fact in South Elgin happen consistently over the weekends, in the evenings, and it's very scary to them. And I actually have a recording of the shooting as well that was sent to me.
I guess, I mean, I agree with that, but I don't know how much power this committee has to tell a neighbor, be a good neighbor and have common sense. I mean, maybe Sheriff Hayne would like to tell the neighbor, be a good neighbor and have common sense, but outside of that, I don't know what power we have at this point. I guess that's just a question. What power do we have to do that?
Well, I think we have some people here that can help answer that. Giving the sheriff the tools in the toolbox to go and deal with all this and looking at the ordinance, setting policy, we should absolutely put all that in motion. From time to time in courtrooms, the word emergency gets thrown around, and quite often it's not, but people go for it anyway. But in this case, as has been, brought to our attention, I think you have a bona fide emergency. And Chief Judge, aren't there things, actions available to you on that basis to give the sheriff something to work with to enforce under an emergency basis to at least shut it down on that, at that location?
I'm not sure, Mark.
Madam Chair, this is Coroner Russell. May I just add something?
Absolutely, Mr. Russell, go ahead.
Yes, in my former life, I was a deputy sheriff over in DuPage County, and neighborhood disputes were always the most difficult to handle. But I know that there's in the statute, I mean, if a deputy can articulate that, something was, a weapon was being shot in a certain direction, that would fall under the reckless conduct law. So, maybe that's something, I don't know if that's, I'm sure it's being looked at, but that is how we, when I was a deputy sheriff, is that we just need witnesses to say that they pointed that way and that the gun was shot, and it was, obviously a very dangerous and reckless situation. And I think, on the books, there's already, and I'm not saying we shouldn't do an ordinance. Trust me, anything we can do to keep my office from being busy is great with me. But yeah, I'm just curious where the reckless conduct law might come into play.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that one, Coroner Russell, Sheriff Hayne. So certainly everything is going to be a case-by-case basis. We can always use reckless discharge of a firearm. We can use reckless conduct. Most of these complaints are stemming from the noise and the proximity of the noise to a certain venue or a certain neighborhood. So of course, if they are even shooting in a safe direction, it's still alarming and disturbing to the people. And can we say disorderly conduct? Not necessarily under the current conditions of the ordinance, because it's allowed. So wrapping that extra parameter in there that will buffer that zone within that ordinance gives us, again, like Mr. Davis said, multiple tools in that toolbox. But yeah, great point about different state laws that we can apply, but it'd be really nice to have an amended ordinance in this case.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I think we have consensus over the direction we want to go
Chairman Molina, this is Alan.
Yes, Miss Allen, please go ahead.
Just something I wanted to toss in having to do with the noise. The Liquor Commission had to deal at one time with the Milk Pail property up in Dundee in unincorporated area. And I'm so sorry that I don't remember the state's attorney's name, the assistant state's attorney's name, but what he helped us work out was, and this is on the books, was that if you stand at the perimeter of your property, you're a resident, and you stand at the perimeter of your property, and you can hear noxious noise, then we have ordinances in place to call the police, bring them to the perimeter of your property, let them hear that everyone can hear that noise emanating. In this case, it was music and general good-natured rowdiness, but very very difficult for the residents to handle. And so a policeman standing with you on the perimeter of your property, if you could hear that, then a citation could be written. And I'm guessing that is still in place. Maybe Mr. Van Kerkhoff could help me remember that, but that is something that should be there that can be used. I don't know if it's specified music, but certainly noise that could be heard at the perimeter of your property. Thanks.
Thank you. I think it is in the ordinance.
It certainly would be one of the models we could look at to apply more generally over the county. That ordinance is specific to properties where they hold a liquor license. So it's not, it can't be applied to a private residential party. But that would be one of the models to definitely take a look at, particularly if it's worked well, in the opinion of the Sheriff's Department in responding to any of those complaints.
Okay, I'm going to try to save Mr. Van Kerkhoff's voice, so we're not going to ask him any more questions. Yes, I think that's going to be the direction. We'll move it in, and then I guess we do have, Julie Mann and her staff to kind of just put it out there and say, this isn't nice neighborly behavior. And, let's try to keep each other safe and do something of that in public outreach, public and at the same time. And we might be getting more people saying, hey, this is happening in my neighborhood too. And we'll have more reason to update our ordinance here.
So as I can ask then on behalf of Julie, since she's not here, if anybody has language from the sheriff, from the state's attorney, that she can incorporate in a narrative on just courtesy, that would be appropriate.
Okay, so we will go ahead and move on. I'd like to, can I have consensus to place reports on file?
So requested by Shepro.
Okay.
Unanimous consent.
Okay, we have unanimous consent. We do have need for executive session. So I will entertain a motion to go into closed session to discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees. May I have a motion and a second?
Leonard moves.
Brown seconds.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to go into executive session. A roll call, please.
Brown,
Brown, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Shepro,
Shepro, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Molina.
Molina, yes. Okay, we're be going into executive session. Thank you, everybody else, for joining us.
Okay, for those online that will be joining the closed session, please accept the invite. We will need you to be in there before we can go ahead and start it. Be aware we are live streaming, so until I give you the word that we are successfully in the closed session, be aware we are live streaming. So we'll be with you in a moment.
I think they changed this. I'm glad you're coming. I'm glad you're
So it sounds us below.
I think it's what I've said. I just they changed it for both.
Last minute call from Jamie.
Yeah, because I think they do this thing for like people going through residential.
Yeah. I mean, it's just so scary. In St. Charles, they have a park Right. With the swimming pools. They got the big swimming pool on the unincorporated side of St. Charles Township. And I was walking my dog and it's by the juvenile, by the boys jail, boys prison. And yeah. To sing. I don't think and before he just could not handle the noise. So not only is it ears, maybe what, 3/4 of a mile away, hearing it clearly. Bark, 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 bark. Just, I mean, she was scared. So can you imagine the neighbors if they have dogs? And I would go to university if the pop goes on. Yeah. It was one of those.
Anybody hearing my voice that feels they should be in the closed session? Probably Miss Neerman.
Yes, please.
Hi, Teresa. I got here before you.
Anyone else hearing my voice that feels they should be in it?
Okay, we're back in open session. May I please have roll call?
Brown,
Brown here.
Gums, Leonard,
Leonard here.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, present.
Shepro,
Shepro, present.
Davis,
Davis here.
Tirag,
Yes.
Molina.
Molina present. Okay, thank you, everybody. May I have a motion and a second to adjourn?
Davis. moved.
Shepro, seconds.
Okay, Mr. Davis moves, Mr. Shepherd seconds. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? All right, thank you, everybody, for your time. See you next month.